Hello, my beautiful anomalies, and welcome back. I'm your lovely host, Astraea, and I have an immensely disturbing new case for us to talk about. The incident of what I like to call the statue that snaps. Ironically morbid, I know. This one may give any of you aspiring sculpturists pause. You may even wish to reconsider your passion to mold materials into likenesses in the future. Let's get into it. Our case revolves around a man named Tommy Thompson, or TT to those close to him. He had dusty blonde hair, almost always tied up, lots of different tattoos up and down his arms, nearly baking sleeves. Now, a little backstory here so you can better understand how TT could have possibly found himself in this tragic situation. Tommy grew up in rural Iowa in a small town just outside of the state capital, Des Moines, the second born of four to Mary and Luke Thompson. Now, Tommy, growing up in the 90s in a lower income house, didn't have the tech we have today. And in a small town, you just had to make your own fun. Tommy was very creative, even from a young age. His family had been reported saying he was a child-sized Da Vinci. Tommy would go through his adolescence in love with everything art. His friends and family were so sure he would have his paintings or sculptures in galleries around the world one day. And in a way, as you'll soon hear, they weren't entirely wrong. Tommy didn't bother as he got older to enter contests, nor did he even seek out recognition for his art. He loved making art for just the sake of making it. I wish I had half as drive and passion as he has for art. I would do all just to draw a stick figure. So one day specifically in March 2022, on the 24th, he wanted to do something different, something altogether new. He woke up at 6 a.m. as he did every day, made his coffee, and as he looked out his window, he saw some construction nearby, and it clicked. He was going to make a statue using only construction materials and unique architecture stylings to make his new wonder. He spent the day planning out everything: blueprints, researching materials, the works. I've seen cases less thorough than Tommy did for his craft. It's insane and it's inspiring, but this is the one thing I didn't mention before. Like so many artists throughout history and in the modern day, Tommy, he was troubled. Depression, anxiety, social and otherwise. And Tommy had a drug addiction, specifically psychedelics, mushrooms, and many other things. And his friends, according to the case files, the segments that aren't redacted have gone on to testify he frequently trips out for days on end. He also loved huffing fumes, which, if you didn't know, A, dangerous, and B, an all-around bad idea. Some of these side effects include dizziness, vomiting, hallucinations, and even death. Yeah, don't do this, guys. Just stay away from it. So, after a few days on March 27th, Tommy finished his plans for his new sculpture. And now he just needed the materials. So he went to Mecca Materia to get what he needed. And on his way back, he noticed an art festival going on, and figured, why not? I'll look around and might be able to be inspired more. Just I hope as I've inspired you to like and follow for more of these. As he looked around at all the arts and crafts. Now, TT wasn't snobby as some artists of any notoriety. To the contrary, he loved it. From those who knew Tommy have stated, even most would objectively say a piece of art was bad, by any measurement, but Tommy wouldn't. Instead, he reveled in it, and if you dared to judge anyone's art in front of Tommy, well, from his criminal record, Tommy wasn't against beating that opinion out of you. I looked. Tommy had 17 assault charges, most are sealed as he was underage, but being a part of the foundation affords some allowance, but I digress. As Tommy proceeded, he came across a tent. This tent doesn't appear in the confiscated CCTV, nor do any of the attendees that were interviewed recall this tent. You might have noticed I've talked about some details that clearly would not be in reports. That's all due to my assistant, Gary. And due to my affiliation with the SCP Foundation and the Hunter's Lodge, I'm not at liberty to discuss Gary at any real quantifiable measure. Just know that Gary acquires information that otherwise would be irrelevant to the case files. But anyway, let's continue. Tommy entered the tent, and it was full of, shall we say, unique and odd, rare assortments of different paint, byproducts from different things, bugs, living and deceased, shells, bones, metals, most of which appeared to, at least Tommy, as if they were from sci-fi or horror movie sets, and that can be crushed down into new paints. And if you're unaware, many dyes and paints use the aforementioned products to make them. Tommy was enthralled, and on the shelf sat a peculiar paint that caught his interest. A deep red, hardly distinguishable from blood, with a label to read, "Mix well with artist blood for a truly life-giving paint." I don't know about you guys, I wouldn't buy that paint or stay in that tent. Thinking hindsight is terrifying, but Tommy bought the red paint, or he would have if the creepy, clearly eccentric clerk wearing an easel as a mask didn't tell Tommy he could just have it for free. Shocked and excited, Tommy headed home to make his newest masterpiece, and Tommy worked for 6 days. April 5th, 2022, Tommy finished his newest masterpiece, a sculpture of a humanoid body shaped like a peanut with arms and legs. He made a quick set in rebar, 2 bright green high-res plates for eyes with a deep, wet black paint for the nose, made with the ashes of his own dead uncle, who once was a construction worker. It just needed the final touches. The paint he got from the tent at the art festival. Can you believe that some artists are just boundary breakers, I swear? Your own dead relative's ashes, like, what the heck? But this nightmare was only about to begin. Grabbing the paint he had got, looking at the label, Tommy cut his palm with a clay knife and mixed it into the paint, splattering it on the statue with a sigh of happiness while wrapping his hand with a nearby rag. He wouldn't live much longer or truly know what nightmare he released into this world. He may very well be the harbinger of mankind's doom, and brought what we know as SCP-173. But before we jump into that horror, let's continue with Tommy's story. Happy with what he had created, he glanced over to his boxer mix Bruce. "What'd you think, boy? Do you like it?" His dog then boofed in delight. But like every good artist, you clean up. Cleanliness is good close to godliness, or however the saying goes. Turning away from his masterpiece, he hears a grinding sort of noise coming from that direction. His eyes flickered up to the statue, not noticing it had moved ever so slightly towards him. He then leaves the studio to wash his hands and tend to the wound he had created in the creation of the latest art piece. And then a sudden yelp and crunch emanates from his studio. Running into the room, he notices his statue has moved into a great distance from its stand where poor, unsuspecting Bruce was. Bruce's neck was crooked in a unnatural position. He then went over to inspect his deceased pup, still reeling of what he had just seen. He didn't have any time to react to his statue, closing in on him and snapping his neck like a popsicle stick. Now, back to the details of the Doombringer Tommy had brought into this world, SCP-173. It is nicknamed the Statue That Snaps, for a reason. Out of line of sight, the statue is able to move freely and snap the neck of the nearest unsuspecting person or persons. Wasn't previously known, but now we know of how this abomination was created. According to the Foundation and the Hunter's Lodge, it has been secured at Site 19 under the Euclid class. I'll get to the descriptions of the classes here in a second, but for now, let's take a little bit of a dive into the containment procedures of this SCP. SCP-173 is to be kept in a locked container at all times. When personnel must go into the container, no fewer than 3 may enter at any given time, and the door must be relocked behind them. At all times, 2 of the personnel must maintain eye contact with the SCP until all personnel have left, and relock the container. The container is also needed to be cleaned on a bi-weekly basis due to the reddish-brown substance from the floor it leaves when it moves. It's, blood and human excrement. Its containment chamber is simply a large, reinforced concrete room with a blast door, designed to prevent the creature's escape, and includes an observation area with steel shutters for maintaining eye contact during testing. The lighting is also checked every single week because if it were to fail, it could allow the creature to move unnoticed. Now, you're probably wondering, how did they get the SCP to go into containment in the first place? Well, that is a very good question, and I'm going to answer that now. So, each site has a tactical team chosen and specially designed to contain these SCPs and to keep them contained. The tactical team that contained this SCP is called Nine-Tailed Fox. They're typically deployed to handle containment breaches, including those involving SCP-173. A few days later, the police got a call from one of Tommy's neighbors about a weird smell coming from his apartment, and that they hadn't seen him for about a week before that, so they wanted to do a welfare check. The Foundation has connections with the police, an inside man, if you will, and they heard the conversation about what the neighbor had said about what they heard up until the disappearance of Tommy. The scraping sounds of concrete, the clanking. Thankfully, the tactical team had arrived before the police did. That would add more to the body count SCP-173 already had. And they had to move quickly to be able to get the SCP out of the apartment before the police arrived, which was a very delicate procedure. But Astraea, how did they get it to go into containment? Just wait a second, I'm getting to it. Nine-Tailed Fox was deployed to the location of Tommy's apartment. Upon entering the apartment, the task force, which was 7 members, discovered a room covered in reddish-brown stains. In the center of the room was SCP-173 with both Tommy and his dog Bruce on the floor at its feet. Using the knowledge they have of this creature, the team devised a method at least half of them would maintain visual contact with it at all times, while the others constructed a mobile containment pod lined with reinforced glass and automated lighting. Well, I know what you're thinking. That's too easy, right? That, my friend, you would be correct. You see, there was originally 10 on his squad. They lost one of the men during the construction of the mobile containment pod. The lights flickered ever so slightly, and the statue, lightning speed, snapped one of the agent's necks. As for the other 2, well, one of them sneezed, and the other one turned to look at them with horror at what they had just done. Both of them got their necks snapped at the exact same time. It was horrible. And cleaning up what SCP-173 left behind, carrying out their fellow comrades, but leaving Tommy and Bruce's body for the police was quite difficult with the little time they had left. The police arrived shortly after the squad had evacuated the premises and noted the neck injuries on both Tommy and Bruce. There was also a ladder propped up against the wall of his living room, so it made it seem likely that Tommy had taken a tumble from the ladder, which unfortunately caused the neck injury. And with Bruce being at the wrong place at the wrong time of the fall, and taking the bodies to perform an autopsy, the cause of death were ruled accidental. There were psychedelics in Tommy's bloodstream, and Tommy's parents were notified of his death shortly thereafter. They hadn't called in the disappearance because Tommy would go weeks without calling or checking in on a regular, so they didn't figure he was in that condition. But even though they were both so very heartbroken, they knew his problem and what it could possibly do. They had tried to get him to go to rehab, but then they would lose all contact with them for weeks on end until he called them to ask for money, to which they declined every single time. Always the same cycle on repeat until the incident. Now, how everything is classified is by its hostility and the measurements the Foundation must take to keep these SCPs contained. Let's start with the safest class, namely the safe class. They are anomalies that are easily and safely contained. This is due to the fact that the Foundation has researched the SCP well enough that containment doesn't require significant resources, or that the anomalies require a specific or unconscious activation or trigger. Classifying an SCP as safe does not mean that handling or activating it does not pose a threat, but that just depends on the SCP you're dealing with. Next up is the Euclid class. They are SCPs that require more resources to contain completely, or where containment isn't always reliable. This is usually because the SCP is insufficiently understood or unpredictable. Euclid is the class with the greatest scope, and it's usually a safe bet that an SCP will be in this class if it doesn't easily fall into the other standard classes. It is also known that if the SCP can act or think on its own and is unpredictable, it'll be in this class as well. Next up is Keter class. These SCPs are anomalies that are extremely difficult to contain consistently or reliably, with containment procedures that are extensive and complex. The Foundation often can't contain these SCPs due to not having a very good understanding of them, or lacking the tech properly to contain or counter it. A keter doesn't exactly mean the SCP is dangerous, just that it's simply very difficult or costly to contain. Now, for the last class, the Thaumiel class. These are anomalies that the Foundation specifically uses to contain other SCPs. The mere existence of a Thaumiel class object is classified at the highest levels of the Foundation. Their locations, functions, and current status are known to few of the Foundation personnel outside of the O5 Council. Let me know down in the comments if you'd like to hear how each class actually got its name. This case was definitely something. My neck hurts just thinking about it. But I hope you enjoyed this case, and I hope you learned something. Maybe don't look away from nearly teleporting statues, especially when they snap your pupper's neck. Let us know in the comments about your thoughts and feelings and what SCP or mythical being or creature you'd like to see in a case file for the next case. Be safe, courteous, and polite out there. Until next time, and remember, stay anomalous. Go.